Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the July 28th special meeting of Council. I'd like to first recognize that we are gathered on the traditional territory of the Snuneymuxw First Nation. Our clerk tonight will be Ms. Sheila Gurry. We also have Councillor Brown attending electronically tonight. Welcome. Today's meeting of Council is being held in accordance with the Community Charter and Council Procedure Bylaw 2018, number 7272. So if during the meeting any member of the gallery has a question regarding an agenda item, please write down your name and the agenda item on the question period sign-up sheet, which is on the double doors to my left. Please note that the Council Procedure Bylaw states questions will only be taken on staff reports, consent items, or other business items. Before we start the meeting, I would like to take a few moments to remind those who are attending in person about the rules of decorum for all council and committee meetings. A meeting of council is intended to be a place where democracy can freely take place in a respectful and safe manner. The council chambers is a workplace, and there are considerations council and staff must make to ensure that a safe work environment exists in accordance with WorkSafe BC regulations. To support this, and in accordance with council's procedure bylaw, disrespectful conduct will not be tolerated, so they ask that there be no cheering or jeering or other outbursts from the gallery at any time. Furthermore, the use of electronic devices for recording or photographing is prohibited unless otherwise authorized by the chair. This will ensure that anyone speaking, whether it be a delegation, member of council, or staff, is not interrupted and can make their point freely without distraction, fear of ridicule, or intimidation. In instances where a speaker is being inappropriate or has exceeded their time limit, their microphone will be cut off. Similarly, if there are outbursts by any person in the gallery, they will be asked to stop, and if they do not comply, they may be asked to leave as permitted under Section 133 of the Community Charter. If necessary, council may call a recess in order to reset the environment of the council chambers. It is our belief that if everyone is respectful of these basic considerations, this meeting and future meetings will be more effective for furthering the business of the City of Nanaimo. The first item on the agenda is the introduction of late items. Ms. Gurry.
Thank you, Your Worship. For late items this evening, we have the addition of correspondence under heading number 11, and we are reordering subsequent agenda headings. We are also adding under 11A, the Pacifica Housing Advisory Association request for letter of support, so that earlier mentioned letter. As well, Your Worship, in attendance for item number 9J, the telecommunications tower at Shepherd Avenue. We do have via online the proponent for that telecommunications tower. I'm just looking for his name, sorry, Your Worship. He is available. His name is Chad Marlett. He'll be online if there's any questions for that item once we get to it. And that's it, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. Motion for the adoption of the agenda is amended. Moved Councillor Thorpe, seconded Councillor Perino. All those in favour? Any opposed? None. Motion for adoption of the minutes is circulated. Moved Councillor Perino, seconded Councillor Thorpe. All those in favour? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Mr. Smith, at the back of the room, you're recording this meeting, are you, sir? Yeah? Okay. I'm going to ask you to stop, Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith, I am telling you, sir, to stop recording the meeting, please. Yes, I do, sir. You've stopped recording?
Stop recording.
Thank you very much. The Mayor's report is the next item, and Councillor Manley wishes to say a few words first tonight, please.
Have my mic on. Thank you. Thank you. I just wanted to apologize to MLA Malcolmson, Minister Malcolmson, for what I said at the last council meeting about packing people up into buses to send them to her home on Gabriola. I would not want to disrupt the home life of any elected official or the bucolic lifestyle of her neighbors, but I was frustrated, feeling frustrated and hearing the frustration of constituents in Nanaimo here that we hear from over and over and over again, and what I said was irresponsible, and I'd just like to apologize for that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor. That was the right thing to do. With respect to the rest of the Mayor's report, I have several items tonight. The first is to remind everyone that the AAP results for the park dedication removal for a portion of Lane Hamilton Park The results were fairly clear. The number of elector response forms received prior to the deadline was 422. 10% of the electors within the city of Nanaimo is 7,672, so council may now proceed with the adoption of Parks Dedication Amendment Bylaw 2025, number 2255.01. Friendly reminder, as the days get hotter, we are under watering restrictions. Stage 2 is in effect. To view the current water restriction stage for Nanaimo and how you can conserve water, see RDN Team Water Smart. I assume and hope folks know there are 7 water regions within the Regional District of Nanaimo, and the City of Nanaimo's drinking watershed is part of Region WR6 Nanaimo River. There are exemptions for restrictions, which are all outlined and available, but I'm asking folks, of course, to keep water conservation in mind at all times, please. Bollards Down, Commercial Street Activities with a Fresh Look and Flexible Future is the title on our press release. On Thursday, July 24th, a ceremonial bollard drop took place celebrating the newly upgraded section of Commercial Street, Wharf Street to Bastion. This renewed space is designed to be inviting, flexible, pedestrian-friendly, and event-ready. Construction for Phase 1 of the Design Commercial Downtown Reimagined project began in September 2024 and has been focused on the section of Commercial Street between Wharf Street and Chapel Street. The new design recreates the space as a multi-purpose, flexible, pedestrian-focused destination. Once finished, the new space will include better lighting, new seating, flexible patio spaces, curbless sidewalks, a re-envisioned rainbow intersection, which is quite lovely, and retractable bollards ready to change the flow of traffic and activate the space for community events, such as the very successful community night markets we've been seeing on Thursdays for the last few weeks and will for the rest of the summer. And finally, on a sad note, I wish to announce that former City of Nanaimo alderman, and he was an alderman in the old days, firstly, and then Councillor Ted Kelly passed away last week. Ted was 88, just shy of his 89th birthday, and on behalf of Council and the citizens of Nanaimo, I wish to extend to the family our deepest condolences. He had a lifelong passion for broadcasting, and in 1964 he was nominated as for the America's Jockey of the Year contest, known as the Skydiving Music Man, in raising funds for the Canadian Cancer Society by skydiving 12 times in partnership with CHAB Moose Jaw radio station, where he was then living. Ted moved to Nanaimo in 1966 with his family. For the older citizens of the community, including me, many of you will remember him as the voice of Chub Radio for many decades and Coffee with Kelly. He served 3 terms as an elected alderman and city council, starting in 1975, 1987, and 1989, when Frank Ney was there. He and Alderman Brookbank in 1975 were appointed to the development of the Nanaimo Airport Commission and successfully secured federal grant funding of $445,000, when that was real money, to resurface the runway, and another provincial grant of $287,000 for upgraded and additional lighting. He was very involved with the creation and development of the Nanaimo bathtub race since its inception back in 1967, and in addition, he raced in it multiple times. He was given the distinguished honor of being made a Freeman of the City in 2008, and being a member of the first council of the amalgamated City of Nanaimo. Several of them were awarded Freedom of the City honors. I must tell you, there is a wonderful picture available in my assistant's office at City Hall showing the inaugural meeting of the council in 1975, and Ted wearing an absolutely up-to-date fashion, thank God it's black and white, god-awful plaid suit that was so indicative of the times, surrounded by council members who had various hairdos that clearly pinpointed where they were. He had a strong sense of community service and advocated for the people. His selfless dedication, leadership, remarkable contributions, and his sense of humor and kindness made a significant and lasting impact on the city. He leaves behind his wife Olga, sons Brian, Kevin, and Joseph, and daughter Colleen, and his grandchildren, Matthew, Sean, Michael, Marissa, and Christopher, as well as 2 great-grandchildren, Noah and Amelia. Sadly, he was predeceased by his eldest son, Michael. At City Hall, we flew the Nanaimo flag at half-mast on Friday starting, and because it was bathtub weekend, it was flowing that way until today. On behalf of the Council and the citizens of Nanaimo, I want to thank his family, because I think we all know that in political life and when you contribute that much to your community, it is your family who loses the time with you. But that is how communities are built and things sustained, and how this community was helped to grow. So we're grateful to them, but we are grateful to Ted Kelly and honor his memory tonight as a Freeman of the City of Nanaimo. Thank you. We have nothing to rise and report on, Ms. Gurry. We have delegations unrelated to agenda items. We have Holden Southward re-council spending within the city's means. Mr. Southward, if you could approach the mic, introduce yourself for the record. I would, as long as you get into the mic and be heard, please.
Okay, I'll stand.
If you need, if you need to sit, we can adjust it.
That's okay. Not quite at that age yet. Anyway, so.
And it's 4 minutes.
So, yeah, thank you very much for having me, honorable council members. And basically the reason why I'm speaking is reasons for becoming self-reliant, self-owned, and self-determined in our own municipalities. Some of the reasons are, at any given time, a catastrophic event such as a mass electromagnetic storm, Masted, a Yellowstone event, or more major wars could shut down all essential transport to the island for months or even years. Chaos, anarchy, terror, death, terrible suffering will eventually come, and it is best to be prepared beyond token gestures. Through transforming ourselves, we will become more interconnected as a community and strong, rather than being pawns of the weak will, totally dependent on the globalist matrix, whom wants to own us and control. Number one, food security. Production, long-term dry storage. Storage. Large silos of wheat, oats, rye, animal feed with mills for bread, with a 2-year supply for all Nanaimo, and sold as wholesale for rotation to groceries, restaurants, and bakeries should be made. This would ensure a supply and scarcity. Production. Vast quantities of grazing land for dairy production must be developed. Goats, sheep, chicken, and hogs must be part of the equation. Products can be sold as wholesale, so not to disrupt local outlets that supply directly to the public. Pet food. Animal byproducts from farms can be used in combination with veggies to be canned in vast quantities. The farms must be controlled by the municipality and run and occupied by experienced caretakers. Education. Our current provincial education system is more of a business for employment for educators. And the truth is that after grade 10, many students are just burning their time, barely passing, failing, and being demoralized. These youth instead should be in the workforce, learning hands-on, and grade 10 should be considered graduated. Many of these youth could have hands-on degrees in animal husbandry and major crop production on these municipal farms, helping with the work and accumulating practical knowledge that would guarantee employment after. After several years, if they so desire, they could return to higher education for a useful degree when they are ready and to be focused. This can be for some, not all. Becoming self-reliant, self-determined, and self-owned is a work that requires dedication, but also through constant communication with the province in order to access more autonomy, to either create laws or loosen restrictions. Proven track records will give us respect, and small steps and accomplishments will a clear foundation be visible to all interest. It would be good to entice businesses that manufacture essential products to locate to Nanaimo, like the needles, tubing, and diapers, and other disposables needed for the hospital. For example, long-term development could start with teams of student engineers creating blueprints for more efficient engines in transport in a contest that could lead to financial awards and even potentially investments for a production line in Nanaimo once a market has been procured. And I'll I'll keep it short there so I don't get interrupted halfway through a paragraph or something. But any questions?
No, sir, I'm not seeing any yet. Got a minute left.
Yeah, it's just it's a vision that takes a long time, but it's very important. I believe it's the new way. It's good for the environment rather than depending on Bill Gates to grow our own food and transport it, from somewhere else. And we're here just not doing very much when it comes to producing our own stuff locally. It's best for the environment because we use the manure and everything here. And it should, and yeah, because when something tragic happens, it's horrible. It'd be a nightmare, and nothing's going to get past Vancouver if it gets there at all. Anyway, I'll leave it to you guys, and thank you very much for having me again.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
The next item are reports. The first one is Ecom 911 contract update. Chief Doyle, please, the floor is yours.
Hi, Your Worship and Council, just here to put forward a recommendation to continue renew our agreement with Ecom through our CI 911 partnership. That's the Cowichan Valley Regional District and Regional District of Nanaimo. That partnership is a legacy kind of partnership that stemmed from our previous association through our dispatch center. It's divided, the revenues that we get are divided, and the costs are divided 48%, 43%, and 9% amongst the partners based on population. And essentially this is to continue 911 services. The agreement's only for 1 year because Ecom is going through a transition to next generation 911, and that the cost for that, they're still not clear enough for them to extend a 5-year contract as they have in the past. So we'll be looking to get back at the table with them and get them to extend us an agreement as soon as their board meets and figures out the terms of what their provincial agreements are going to look like for local governments.
Thank you very much, Chief. I'm not seeing any questions. Councillor Hemmons moves the recommended motion. Councillor Armstrong seconds. All those in favor? And any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you very much. The next is B, alternative approval process results, Parks Dedication Amendment Bylaw 2025, number 2255.01. I've kind of stolen your thunder, Ms. Gurry, but please.
That's okay. You can have the thunder, Your Worship. As noted in your mayor's report, and further to council direction provided June 9th, 2025, the city conducted an alternative approval process to obtain approval of the electors for the adoption of Parks Dedication Amendment Bylaw 2025, number 2255.01. And the AAP, alternative approval process, ran from June 18th to July 21st. Eligible voters had 33 days to vote against the bylaw. The number of eligible electors needed to defeat this AAP was 7,672. We received 422 by the deadline. As there was not a sufficient number of electoral response forms to meet the 10% threshold, Council can now proceed with adoption of the bylaw, which is on the agenda later this evening, Your Worship. Any
Thank you
questions,
very
I'd
much.
be happy to answer.
Not seeing any questions. Very good. The next is C, Media Accreditation Policy. Ms. Gurry, but you're
I'm going to turn this one over to Ms. Robertson.
Ms. Roberts. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening.
And Mr. Burgos?
As outlined in the staff report, Council recently adopted some amendments to its procedure bylaw, and one of those amendments included the provision to prohibit the use of electronic devices by members of the public unless authorized by the chair. So through this provision, the chair has the ability to authorize members of the public to record and take photos on special occasions, such as award ceremonies, and for media to record and take photos for journalistic purposes. So to date, there have been 9 members of the media who have requested this exemption and have been granted that approval, and that list is in your package on attachment B. And despite the authority granted to the chair, Council did want to explore establishing a more formal accreditation process and asked staff to come back with options to amend Council's procedure bylaw to include the certification process to provide accreditation to media reps and independent journalists. So bylaw provisions tend to be a bit more prescriptive in nature, and the processes for implementing those provisions are typically done through policies and procedures. So staff brought forward a media accreditation council policy for consideration. When developing the policy, staff used the criteria and process from Global Affairs Canada and the court's policies as their guiding documents. And once the draft was developed, staff sought input from Mr. Burgos and Mr. Ronsley from Nanaimo News Now, and their feedback was incorporated in the draft that's before council. Highlights of the policy include a definition for what accredited media is, a definition for bona fide media, which covers both professional and independent journalists, a definition for what would be considered a publication, and a media accreditation process by which one can apply to become an accredited journalist. So once accredited, there would be no requirement to renew unless the journalist changes their position or quits, or their accreditation is revoked. And the policy also points to the establishment of an accreditation committee who would vet the applications, and the lead would be Mr. Burgos. Those who apply and meet the criteria would be referred by the committee to the mayor for final sign-off, and those that do not meet the criteria would not be referred. And should council endorse the policy, it would become the process for accrediting members going forward, as the others would be grandfathered. But the chair would still retain the ability through the bylaw to grant other exemptions for special events and award ceremonies. And that concludes my presentation, and either Mr. Burgos or myself are happy to answer any questions.
Ms. Robertson, thank you as always for a thorough and thoughtful presentation. Mr. Burgos, anything you wish to add?
No, Your Worship. I think Ms. Robertson did a very good job.
Councillor Perino, then Councillor Manley.
Thank you, Your Worship, and a question through you. There are two options that staff have suggested. One is, of course, to endorse the accreditation council policy. The other is to literally leave it as it is, status quo. I'm just wondering, if we went with the status quo tonight and we decided, say in 6 months, that we didn't like that, could we come back to the table with the first option and put it in at that point?
Absolutely. Bylaws and policies can be ever-growing documents depending on the circumstances, so yes.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll move option number 2, and if I get a seconder, I'll speak to it.
Sorry, the motion is to endorse the media accreditation policy as attached.
So the option number 2 is that council retain the status quo where discretion for approving members of the media to take photographs or recording video during council or council committee rests with the chair.
Someone going? No second.
Seconder? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Moved to option 1, Councillor Armstrong. Councillor Hammond seconds. Discussion? Yes. Councillor Manley?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm going through the report, as some folks might know, I've done work as a journalist, but also as an independent filmmaker, and I've hopped through the Global Affairs accreditation process before as an independent filmmaker. And I'm just curious about the process for that. Would that just be an exemption that would be provided by the mayor if somebody wanted to document an event or, document something related to council decisions as a filmmaker?
I'm not quite too sure what you're asking. I apologize. Maybe just repeat.
The policy is really directed towards accredited media outlets. And so I've worked as an independent documentary filmmaker, which means I'm not working directly with a broadcaster or an accredited media outlet. And it seemed to me that there is a loophole in there, that if there is a process to make exemptions, for the mayor to make an exemption. So if I was to say I wanted to come in here, I made a film about 5 acres. So say I was doing an extension on that film and I wanted to document the council decision at the time and come in here with a camera, there would be a process to do that for an independent filmmaker?
Yes, the mayor would still, the bylaw provision would still remain unchanged. This would just provide the process for those who would come to council meetings on a more regular basis and want to film or record. But yes, certainly in individual circumstances like that, it would just permission of the chair of the meeting or the mayor.
Okay. I like this process. I like the fact that it's separated from mayor and council, that it's a decision by staff, and it's a process for looking at accreditation and ensuring that people who do come in to work as journalists are legitimate journalists, and that there is an option for people who are, under other circumstances, to be able to be given permission to document meetings for other purposes, including independent filmmaking. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor, in order, Councillor Hemmons, Eastmere, and then Prino.
Thank you, Your Worship. Speaking in favor, I'm going to support because this puts structure around it in a way that isn't reliant upon the mayor's discretion, which could be both onerous and could lead to issues. So yeah, I'm happy to see this go forward. My one question of staff is, I noted that we consulted with Alex Ronsley, the news director for Nanaimo News Now. I'm really grateful for that. What changes were made as a result of his input? It notes that he provided valuable feedback, which has been incorporated. I'd just be curious what that was.
I think one of the things that was really valuable that Alex provided was how it would be very easy for somebody to set up a Word or a WordPress or blog website, which would technically qualify under the consistent verifiable content production, as well as distribution to the general public. And a blog with regular posts could also meet proof of recent publications under one's byline. But he had added or suggested some additional wording where you needed to have a demonstrated history of content which objectively aligns with the RT and NDA's Code of Journalistic Ethics. And that was a big piece, and that is referred to in the document, because he said that any reputable outlet or journalist knows and adheres to this code, and it has a lot of good language within it, which counts as proper news media and what would not qualify. So it was really, really helpful.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I believe it was Mr. Ronsley who initially emailed council with concern over this bylaw, so really great to know that staff reached out to him and that his input has provided changes to the policy, so thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Eastmere.
Thank you. Just a question through you. Hypothetically then, if a member of the media didn't go through this process and attended a meeting, would there be a way for the mayor or the chair to give them permission at that meeting, similar to giving permission to a member of the public for a celebratory event?
I think the intent would be for people to go through the process of applying to get that exemption, where Mr. Burgos could take a look and could see whether that person would meet the criteria as outlined in the policy. Technically, under the bylaw, the mayor, if we left the bylaw as is, would still have some flexibility with that. There might be a one-off circumstance that might not quite fit in the box, which would make sense. So there still would be some autonomy there.
But if we were to do option one, then even if media for some reason didn't know about the media accreditation process beforehand and attended a meeting, the chair wouldn't be able to give them permission?
The chair technically could. This would just be the process by which most media would be following.
No,
So
I understand.
I guess if you really wanted to, we could go back and take a look at making those council procedure amendments, but we'd have to take some work on that. It would be a little bit more challenging.
Okay, yeah, I'm just seeing a circumstance where we have a major item on the agenda and we have like out-of-town journalists who have come and aren't aware of the policy, and I just don't see, with the chair still having the discretion to give members of the public the ability to ask or to take photographs or record for specific like celebratory moments. I don't understand how that wouldn't also just extend to members of the media if the chair so desired.
Yeah, I mean, if that's completely up to council. If you want to retain that flexibility, yes, I would recommend that you keep the bylaw the way it is, but use the council policy as a guiding document.
Ms. Gurry.
Yeah, Your Worship, I would just like to add in the preamble that you read and or the chair reads before every meeting, you state that there will be no recording or photograph unless exemption is provided by yourself. So the audience is made aware of that and could seek to get that authorization at that time. And media has reached out and has all been provided that pre-exemption from you already, and it's been offered as well to those that want to seek it. So just for that information.
Councillor Perino seems like she wants to jump in.
Am I next on the
No,
not?
it's actually Councillor
ahead.
Brown, but go
No.
ahead.
Well, Councillor Eastmore is asking the same question that I was trying to address to, and that's why I originally put option 2 on the table instead of option 1. And the idea was that it allows our mayor the opportunity to say yes or no depending on the circumstances. And that's why I was thinking that direction. But I had understood when Councillor Manley was making his comments that you said that it was okay for the mayor to be able to give, or the chair, whoever the chair is at the time, give them the authorization to say yes or no, depending on what they see as fit. And so I just want that clarity.
With no changes to the bylaw right now, the chair or the mayor would still have the opportunity for those instances to approve anyone who asked.
Yes.
This would just be a council policy that would provide some guidance where the majority of those individuals who would like to record or take photographs, the individuals who come on an ongoing basis where they don't have to keep asking, just have a standard approval. They could come to any council committee and take video and record without having to go through that process of having to ask.
So not a lot changes then?
No, just to simplify it, Your Worship, through you to Councillor Perino, it is status quo except for media. So this policy is unique to media accreditation.
Okay.
And the rest of the bylaw remains the same. This policy complements our bylaw.
Okay.
Councillor Eastmere, you're...
So, yes, so generally, like, I'm not happy that we need this policy because originally I didn't support the blanket ban on recording and photography in the council chambers, as I felt it was an unnecessary infringement on charter rights. And the process to me of the media accreditation does seem a little bit onerous because there's 3 people involved, but I think that generally I'm more comfortable with that than just leaving it to the discretion of the chair. But I do still also really want to know that there is flexibility so that if we do have, per se, media from out of town who are obviously accredited, that they could be given an exception during the meeting while they're here and not have to go through that process.
I promise if Keith Baldry or Vaughn Palmer shows up, I'll let them talk.
Okay, thank you.
I think
Burgos-
Mr. Burgos has something, and then Councillor Brown has his hand up too, but Mr. Burgos wanted to say something.
Thank you, and through your worship, for this particular instance, if it is one of these one-off, maybe a national reporter that would be coming in, and they are already established reporters, I can easily give them temporary accreditation if needed, and it would be very quick for me to just be able to find the information that I need on the internet, provided we have access to the internet, to see if they are in fact legitimate journalists, much like who we would approve for our regular attendees, just like Joe and Tyler over here. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you very much. Councillor Perino, you're done. Councillor Brown?
Thanks, Your Worship. Just was going to say I very much support this policy. It is a policy. It doesn't. There's no bylaw amendment here. So the chair, Your Worship, whoever's chairing the meeting will always have the ability to grant somebody permission through a conversation and comfort level. What this policy does, though, is allows a route for media or regular media to have the comfort of sort of a blanket approval and a vetting process there. So I think this is kind of the best of both worlds. I think it satisfies all the concerns that have been raised at the council table, every from the documentary filmmaker to the regular media personnel in the chambers. And so I think this is absolutely the right way to go, and I hope council will vote in support of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hemmons.
Thank you. It's been addressed, but I just wanted to affirm, as chair of the meeting is yours to run. So the policy sets out some framework for us to use that I think is really useful, as I argued. However, if a national reporter comes in, even Mr. Bookus, if they don't go through you, if they arrive in the gallery, the mayor, as chair, has discretion to say yes or no. That's still embedded in the bylaw. This is just a policy to help us enact the bylaw. So I'm satisfied. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All those in favor? And any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you. Ms. Gurry, council resolution update.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. So this report outlines resolutions that council has made from January 2024, the January 15th council meeting, up to and including the May 5th, 2025 council meeting. Your last report on resolution update was done in April of 2024, and this overlaps a bit. It goes from January 24 and covers up to the April of your last report, but it gives you a snapshot in time of resolutions that you have made for some regular business items. So we have not included rezoning or development approval applications in these resolutions that are made by council, but this is to give you a snapshot of the status of where these resolutions are at. So when council makes a resolution, staff are assigned these as tasks. They are added to our work plans, and as they're completed, we update the status to completed. If they're in progress, they're in progress. If they're not started, they're not started. So in the report attached, at the moment of time that I ran these reports, there was 231 resolutions that were completed. 18 resolutions that were in progress, and 9 resolutions that had not yet been started. I also included an attachment D, your 2024 April 8th update of in progress resolutions. The ones that were completed were updated to say completed on that. So we will endeavor to bring this to you at least once a year. We were going to attempt for twice a year, but it is quite labor intensive getting these resolutions up to date. Hopefully we'll get more proficient at it, and we will keep looking at ways to streamline this. Staff are here to answer any questions that you may have on any of these resolutions, but they are attached for your information.
Thank you very much. Not seeing any questions. Appreciated, Ms. Gurry. The next is E, consideration of new permissive tax exemption applications for the 2026 taxation year. Ms. Mercer, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. So we have one organization requesting to be put on the 2025 PTE bylaw for the 2026 tax year for 2 additional locations that they operate out of. So the applicant has met the criteria outlined in the grant policy and guidelines. So the organization is the Central Vancouver Island Multicultural Society, and they have one location currently on the PTE bylaw, and that's for 319 Selby Street. And these new applications relate to the 2 properties they occupy at 235 Bastion Street and 155 Skinner Street. So staff are here seeking council's recommendation on how to proceed with the application.
Thank you very much. Councillor Prino moves the recommended motion. Councillor Manley seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor and any opposed, none, motion carries. Thank you. The next is F, Strategic Priorities Fund Capital Infrastructure Stream. Was deferred from July 16th Finance and Audit. Ms. Mercer again, please.
Thank you. So the city has an opportunity to submit an application to the Strategic Priority Fund Capital Infrastructure Grant Stream, and this program provides funding for strategic investments that are large in scale, regional in impact, or innovative, and support the Canada Community Building Fund national objectives of productivity and economic growth, a clean environment, and strong cities and communities. So this stream offers 100% funding of eligible costs up to $7 million, and the application deadline is September 12th of 2025. So staff have recommended submitting an application for the Commercial Street Phase 3 project, and that has a budget of approximately $4.53 million. And this project is currently not in the approved 5-year financial plan. You may remember that with the 2025 budget deliberations, this project was removed from the plan in order to reduce the tax increase, with the intention of considering its inclusion in the 2026 to 2030 financial plan. You will also note that we have not included Loudon Park improvement project to be considered, and this is because a design option has not been chosen yet. staff put forward projects that we thought had the best chance of having a successful application. So staff are here to answer any questions you have on the application.
Thank you very much. In order, Councillors Armstrong and Gesselbrock.
I actually wanted to make a motion. I wanted to move actually option 2 for the Bevan HVAC, and if it's seconded, I'll speak to why I think that's a better project.
And there's a seconder, Councillor Eastmere.
For me, this has to be done. Like, Commercial Street is a nice to have, it doesn't have to be done. We've heard loud and clear from the businesses, they've been impacted by terminal park construction, or terminal construction, the other construction. $7 million versus $4 million, that's a savings for us if it gets approved. I think we can look at it from the reduced GH emissions, which will go to their policies that they're looking at, and it has to be done or our pool doesn't run. So for me, I think the HVAC system makes far more sense than going for something that we can do at a later date, which isn't even in our 5-year plan. So that's my rationale. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gesselbrock.
Thanks, Mayor. Through you, I had similar feelings, just kind of undecided between the HVAC and the Buttertubs Marsh lateral system. And just a question regarding the lateral system. Would that allow for increased densities where in the areas mentioned, such as around VIU and maybe up in like the defense area, and just, allow us to, achieve housing targets and properly plan for future growth?
Through the chair, Councillor Gesselbrock, you're exactly right. Those are the general areas. So certainly the university, the D&D lands, College Park, those are all kind of tributary or were tributary. Staff have had to work interim measures to redirect flows temporarily to other areas, but generally those are the areas that would be serviced by an upgrade like this. Yeah.
And just to follow up on that, is the grant amount, it's similar for both the HVAC and we'd be asking for the same amount, about $7 million. Okay, thank you. I'm torn between the two. I feel almost like the housing end of things is almost a higher priority. Thank you. Curious what other councillors have to say.
Councillor, Mr. Lindsay.
The only other thing I wanted to add to Ms. Mercer's introduction is just Council recalls that a number of months ago we had a GPC discussion about the timing and phasing of Commercial Street, and it was agreed by Council at that time that because of the I think, for lack of a better term, the construction fatigue on the portion of Commercial east of Terminal, that we'd be shifting our focus to the west. So the next phase is actually on the other side of the highway, on the other side of Terminal is where this would be proposed. I also think it's important to note that, as mentioned by Ms. Mercer, it was at that time identified by Council as a 2026 project opportunity. We do recognize that with all the other project challenges and costing of projects, that I think it's going to be challenging to fit it in the 2026 capital plan, and that as such, if Council does want to proceed with it in 2026 and reduce that pressure on or open up capacity for other projects, applying for and receiving the grant is probably the best way to move that project forward. So just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you. Councillor Manley and then Councillor Eastmere.
Thank you. Yeah, I was kind of torn the same way Councillor Gesselbrock was between the Buttertubs Marsh lateral system and the HVAC, because I see these as both necessary systems, one to deal with growth and one to deal with making sure we keep the pool closed. I'm happy to support either. We got the HVAC system on the table, and I hope we find the money for the Buttertubs Marsh lateral system soon too, because I think we're going to be at a crunch at some point in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hemmons.
Thank you. Similar comments to Councillor Manley. I was torn. I actually came in prepared to speak to the Buttertubs Marsh lateral system based upon the rationale of staff providing immediate relief, phase solution balances short-term needs with long-term sustainability. This is pipes in the ground. This is vital. So I think I could go either way. Around the Commercial Street upgrades, I'm not in favor of that, but I do want to ask staff, when that came to us as a possibility, did we consult with the Victoria Crescent Business Association at all about their ability to weather construction further in the downtown?
Mr. Lindsay.
Yeah, I don't think I have the staff here who are actually working on that to give you a real.
Mr.
Mr. Stewart is hiding in the back. Sorry, didn't see him there.
Mr. Stewart's come to the rescue.
He's all dressed up, so we better get him in.
Bless you, Mr. Stewart. Please.
Thank you. Through the chair to the councillor. So we've had a number of conversations with the Victoria Crescent Neighborhood Association. However, most of them have been around the Downtown Transit Exchange, and the timing of the Commercial Street project has kind of been in flux. So we haven't really kind of talked to them in depth around that project, but we are in constant conversation with them around the other projects in the area.
Thank you. Just given everything that downtown businesses have faced, I feel that if we were to pursue this without checking in with them first, that would not go over well. A question between the HVAC and the Buttertubs Marsh lateral system. I'm thinking about interruption to service. Does the Bevan pool still run if the HVAC system is being replaced? I imagine the lateral system replacement would tear up, like given that it's piping, we'd be tearing up the ground. So the risk of, or not the risk, but the length of interruption to city business would be longer with the Buttertubs Marsh project. Is that accurate?
Through your worship to Councillor Hemmons, yes, that's correct. It would actually be similar to what we're looking at NAC right now. So we've just started the process with NAC, but also early phases for Bevan, but it's similar sort of service interruption that we would have to schedule and work through with operations.
And I'm not sure if this is your department and you can answer, but the interruption of pipes in the ground versus HVAC system, do we have any sense of that? Sorry to ask.
Through the chair to Councillor Hemmons. So the project for the Buttertubs lateral would be a pump station and force main, kind of along city streets and similar to other, piped infrastructure projects where you see traffic disruptions and that type of thing, probably, 8-10 months to a year of construction type thing.
A year of construction. You've just answered my question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thorpe, Armstrong, and Eastmere in that order.
Thanks, Your Worship. I had similar concerns and thoughts as several other councillors have mentioned. For me personally, Commercial Street Phase 3 is not a priority at this time. I think Commercial Street and its merchants deserve a respite, and certainly until there's been more consultation with the Victoria Crescent Association, if I have that name right. So for me, it was the HVAC or the Buttertubs system, and I would lean towards the HVAC as being slightly more important. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Armstrong.
I just wanted to comment on a couple things. One of my concerns, and I did also look at Buttertubs, was the fact that other sewer projects would be reprioritized, which have been waiting for a long time. So I'm concerned about that. The other concern I have on the Buttertubs project, again, is there is also construction fatigue on that area because Bowen has been dug up for how long, Northfield's been dug up. So, and I also think that our pools can't run unless the HVAC systems are there, period. And we're doing a lot of building in other parts of town, and I understand the urgency, but I also believe there's going to be more infrastructure grants becoming available that the HVAC system would not qualify for, like housing grants. So that was my main reason for choosing that one over Buttertubs, because I do agree it's important too, but I think there's other projects, there's other dollars that project would qualify for that the HVAC wouldn't. Thank you.
I'm just looking at the staff report, and I tend to rely on staff for these matters, particularly when it involves various projects of various kinds with a lot of technical expertise involved. And it says, quite simply, the Strategic Priorities Fund Capital Infrastructure Stream is an application-based funding program which pools a portion of the annual Canada Community Building Fund for strategic investments that are considered large in scale, regional in impact, or innovative and support the CCBF national objectives of productivity and economic growth, a clean environment, and strong cities and communities. For me, candidly, the HVAC system doesn't do it, nor does Buttertubs Marsh. Commercial Street does, so I will be voting against the motion as it stands. All those in favor of the motion? Councillors Armstrong, Eastmere, Gesselbrock, Hemmons, Thorpe, Perino, and Manley. The mayor is opposed, and Councillor Brown, you're opposed as well? Thank you very much. Looks like the motion passes. Thank you very much. The next is 2025 other grants applications. Ms. Mercer, again, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. So the city has received 7 other grant applications totaling $48,192.75 in requests. and all the applications are listed in the report. So the budget for 2025 is $7,000, and there is currently just under $5,000 remaining to be spent. As the requests far exceeded the funding, staff are recommending that the budget be allocated between the 3 top-ranked applications. However, since the time of drafting this report, the Nanaimo Disability Resource Center has come back and said that if they don't receive the full ask that they put in, the project cannot proceed. So council has 2 options available. You can reallocate their portion of $1,417.66 to the other 2 recommended applications, and that would give each one of those remaining applications a total of $2,497 in granting each. Or the other option is you could do a second intake in the fall. So staff are here to answer any questions on these applications.
Councillor Armstrong, and then Councillor Manley.
I actually want to make a motion that we take the money that was going to go to the Disability Resource Center and split it equally between the Equestrian Association and the Together Against Poverty Society.
Seconded. Councillor Thorpe. Discussion. Councillor Armstrong, wish to say anything further?
No, and this doesn't make sense. If they don't want that little bit of money, I'm sure the other 2 organizations would love it, especially the Poverty Society.
Thank you. Councillor Manley.
Thank you. I was curious about the Nanaimo Equestrian Association. They've requested $20,000, which is far more than I think the grant application says is available. But it's such a small portion of this grant. Are they going to be able to do what they need to do with this small chunk of money?
Through your worship to Councillor Manley. So the maximum in grant that they could get under this is $5,000 anyway, and it is my understanding that staff have talked to them and that they could proceed with their project with the reduced amount of funding.
They've got access to funds elsewhere.
I guess so, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I find it interesting when it's clear that the amount available is far less than people are asking for, that it makes me wonder. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thorpe, then Councillor Eastmere.
Thanks, Your Worship. Through you, I'm in favor of taking that relatively small amount of money and simply splitting it between the other 2 organizations. And beyond that, if I may, I would like to just express my thanks to staff. The other grant applications have very clear criteria. They're vetted carefully by staff in a nonpartisan manner. It's not a political decision at all. And there is accountability involved with this process. So I appreciate it, and I take these recommendations to heart. So I'll support the motion on the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Eastmere.
Thank you. I did want to speak to the fact that I am happy to generally split the amount between the other 2 applicants, but I note that the application from Nanaimo Science and Sustainability Society is only for $829. And that's to allow for in-kind facility rental funding to host free science in the park programs, which I think those programs are extremely valuable, that they're completely accessible and free and happening in our city parks. So my preference would be to add them for the complete cost of the $829 and then to split the remaining funds between the other 2. I think that rounds it out nicely, and we still support three programs. Thank you.
If no amendments proposed, Mercer.
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to add one thing. So the Nanaimo Science and Sustainability Society would not be eligible under this because they received this grant last year. And the idea of this grant stream is not to support operations. And, running like the in-kind rental is an operating cost. So they kind of got a one-time grant last year, but it's not meant to be an ongoing operating expense.
Thank you. Motion's on the floor. All those in favor and any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you. And second to what Councillor Thorpe had to say about the process and staff. Next is H, development permit application number DP 1360-3425 Uplands Drive. Mr. Holm, good evening, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good
Councillor
evening.
Manley, sorry.
I've done some work for NACL in the last year, helping fundraise, write grants for Service Canada, et cetera, so I'm going to step out of the room. Thanks.
Very good, thank you. We'll give Councillor Manley a moment to leave, and we won't forget about you for the next item. And Mr. Holm, please.
Great. Thank you, Your Worship. I'll just briefly introduce this property outlined in red on the screen. Is a neighborhood designated property in the Long Lake neighborhood on Uplands Drive, and it's the site of a proposed 49-unit personal care facility for the Nanaimo Association for Community Living, and it was subject to rezoning approved at Council's meeting of July 21st. So the next step following closely after the rezoning approval is this development permit before Council for consideration of approval. This is actually the second phase of development on the property. The first phase consisted of 28 townhouses, and again, same developer, Nanaimo Association for Community Living, operating those. There's a proposed height variance from 14 meters to 16.7 meters requested along with the development permit application. I'm happy to go over the details, but it's been received by the Design Advisory Panel, and staff recommend approval, including the variance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Armstrong and Councillor Prino.
Just a question, and I might have missed it. Will these be accessible units, some of them?
Thank you. Through your worship, I don't have the answer to that. I would assume some would be, but I don't have those details.
Yeah, it's fine. Just, it'd be good if they are, because they are going to be affordable rentals below market, which is very important and needed. Thanks.
I believe they'd be required, through your worship, under the building code at least to have an elevator providing access to all floors, given the height of the building. So,
thank you, Councillor Prino.
Your Worship, and a question through you. I wondered what personal care facility means.
Great question. So there's assistance provided in, I won't get into the details, I don't have the definition in front of me, but basically there's some level of assistance provided with residents at the facility.
Okay.
So that could be, there's food, provision of food, common area as well, potentially light laundry services and things like that.
Okay.
So there's, provision of care as well at the facility.
So predominantly senior oriented? Would that be a fair statement?
It's for people with assistance needs in living, but it's not. It's not strictly healthcare. It's just assisted living, effectively.
Okay. So there's no affiliation then with Island Health in this case?
There'd be a licensing requirement, but not provision of care. So.
Okay, good. I'm very much in favor of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Eastmere, then Councillor Himmons.
Thank you. I just wanted to note that the design panel was very positive about this development and made a couple of recommendations, including adding weather protection over the patios and a shared outdoor amenity area. And I see that they've added weather protection over the patio doors and a common patio. So good to see the design panel having a positive impact on developments. Thank you.
Very good. Councillor Himmons.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll make the recommended motion.
Seconded, Councillor Prino. Any discussion? All those in favor and any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you. The next is proposed license disposal TELUS communication facility, Shepherd Avenue. Ms. Mercer, over to Ms. Skeels directly.
Yes, that is correct.
Ms. Skeels, welcome. Good evening.
Good evening, Your Worship and Council. The report before Council is for Council to consider granting a license of use agreement for 250-meter tall TELUS-owned streetlight anapole poles. Staff from a number of departments have been working with TELUS over a number of years to identify city property that's available for the proposals to be located on. Staff have confirmed that the land is available to facilitate the monopole towers, and there's sufficient road right-of-way located adjacent to Shepherd Avenue. These areas have poor coverage and would greatly benefit from the improved service. TELUS is proposing to compensate the city with an annual rent of $14,000 for the street light poles, which will be paid annually to the city for a term of 30 years. The required public notification has been prepared and published, and should approval for the use of the city property be received, council will be asked to consider a concurrence, which will be presented to council in the following report. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hemmons.
That was a leftover, but I'll move the recommended motion.
Very good. Seconded Councillor Armstrong. Any discussion? Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have just a general question about these applications. As they do take up staff time, is there a cost recovery mechanism through a fee or anything like that?
Through your worship to Councillor Brown, no, there isn't. It was, the proposals are just brought forward to the real estate and to the planning departments, and we process them as an application.
Thank you. Sorry, as an application, as in they pay a fee?
And with no fee, as part of our work
Okay.
plan.
Okay, thank you very much, Your Worship. I'll follow up separately after the meeting with Mr. Lindsay.
Thank you. Councillor Gesselbrock.
Thanks. The motion's on the floor. Yeah, I noted the opposition from the community members, and I haven't really heard a lot of complaints around that particular area and need for these, and so I'm having difficulty supporting. Thank you.
All right. All those in favor, Councillors Armstrong, Eastmere, Hemmons, Mayor Krogh, Councillor Thorpe, Councillor Prino, Councillor Manley, Councillor Brown, opposed. Councillor Gesselbrock, motion carries. Thank you. Next is J, proposed telecommunications facility, Shepherd Avenue. Mr. Holm, please.
Just a reminder, Your Worship and Mr. Holm, that there, in case council has any questions, Chad Marlett is online to speak to the application, should council have any questions.
All right, but only if there's questions.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I will maybe just follow up to a question that was asked of Ms. Skeels. So there is, for the request for concurrence, which this is a request for concurrence for the previous item that that council just voted on. There is a fee charged for these applications that are processed through Lania Rowett's current planning team. So there is a fee that the city does charge for the request for concurrence consideration. So this is a request for concurrence from Cypress Land Services on behalf of TELUS for the proposed 15.7 meter towers that are, cell facilities attached to streetlights that were previously considered in the last motion. So the city does not have a policy to guide the consultation process. So the proponent follows innovation, science and economic development standard process for consultation. That's been completed. One response was received with 6 signatories for properties located in proximity to the tower, and they were citing largely health and safety related concerns and proximity to residential as concerns. I'm happy to take questions. Thanks.
Thank you. Any questions, Mr. Holm or the delegation? Not seeing any. Councillor Armstrong moves the recommendation. Councillor Hemmons seconds. All those in favor, Councillors Armstrong, Eastmere, Hemmons, Mayor Krogh, Councillor Thorpe, Councillor Prino, Councillor Manley, Councillor Brown, and those opposed, Councillor Gesselbrock, motion carries. Thank you very much. The next is item K, Housing Target Progress, July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2025. Tell us we passed, Ms. Rowett and Ms. Brinkman. Mr. Holm, you want to introduce it though, or should we just pass it straight to?
No, I'm happy to pass it on. I'm here for questions too. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Please, welcome both of you.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you. So this presentation serves 3 purposes: to present the results of the housing target data collected for the year 1 reporting period, which is July 2024 to June 2025, and to report on city initiatives that support more affordable housing, and to present the city's annual development statistics for 2024. I will present information regarding the housing target order and year 1 results, and Ms. Rowett will present the 2024 housing overview, including building permits issued and other development statistics for 2024. So starting with the housing target order, I am happy to say that yes, we have passed. So the main target is 875 new housing units in the reporting period. And we've, the target is 783, and we've exceeded that. We have issued occupancy for 875 housing units, so way to go. But also, on top of that, occupancy of 100, it says, oh, here we go. It says 100 hearth units, actually 109, and the 59 on 1030 Old Victoria Road, I think, are going to be occupied any day. So they're ready to be occupied. So technically, they are ready in the reporting period. The next is we have guideline targets for unit size, requesting that the city track the number of bedrooms in each housing unit that's issued occupancy. So we have been doing that, and the city has exceeded the provincial guideline for 3+ bedroom units, so we exceeded that. Also, for 2-bedroom units, we've exceeded the target as well. An interesting finding was from the 1-bedroom units. We actually didn't meet that target, and so it is a 5-year reporting period. So we'll monitor that. It could just be in this year we didn't meet the 1-bedroom target, and if there is something that we need to do to try and incent more 1-bedroom units, we have tools that we can do that. So we will monitor that. Also, for rental units, we did also exceed the target. So the annual target for rental units is 554, and the city issued occupancy for 825 rental units, exceeding the target by 271 units. So that's really great. A key indicator in the city's monitoring strategy is vacancy rate. So when a 3% vacancy rate is achieved, rents are more likely to be held at affordable levels. And so you can see by this graph, in recent years, there's been so much construction of rental units that we are approaching a 3% vacancy rate. And so that's great news for affordability for renters. So the target for supportive housing units is 22 per year, and through the Hearth program, we have actually 109 supportive housing units, so we exceeded that target. Also, below market housing units, in this reporting period, we didn't issue permits for below market housing units, so the housing target order breaks out supportive housing and below market housing. Typically, we do issue building permit for 50 to 100, so it's a little bit unfortunate in this reporting period we didn't have any. But we do have a lot underway. So the city's working directly with BC Housing every week. Different departments are meeting with BC Housing, and we have achieved in the past years over 318 below market units, and there's 683 below market units in stream at different phases of the development process. So I do think in future years we will be, maybe not meet the target, but be closer. For example, 2 new supportive housing units or developments we will see in the future is on 250 Terminal Avenue. So that's quite far along in the approval process. And then more recently at Boxwood, 1850 Boxwood Road, that recently the public hearing for that one's for 22 complex care housing units there. So some examples of supportive housing to come. I do want to point out too that the successful rent bank and rent supplement programs mean that market housing units are actually being turned into below market housing units to keep people housed. So in 2024, 94 rent bank loans were issued and 156 rent supplements were issued. So we are achieving below market units in that way as well. And since the city actually doesn't construct housing or below market housing, we're using all the tools that we have to provide incentives for below market housing units. So we have development cost charge reductions that allows for a 50% reduction of development cost charges for not-for-profit rental housing. We have Schedule D in our zoning bylaw allows a developer to achieve more density if they're below market units. And the city has Housing Legacy Reserve Fund in the past 20 years that we have used to provide incentives for below-market housing. And we support below-market housing with tax exemptions. And in 2024, 604 below-market housing units were issued a tax exemption. This slide lists a few of the projects that staff are currently working on to remove barriers for housing in the city. And also in Attachment C, the Housing Target Report Farm, there is a list of projects that are complete and ongoing that remove barriers and incentivize housing as well. One correction I want to point out in the staff report is that the Housing Target Report is correct. There was an error in the number in the staff report. So there was 5 rezonings approved in the reporting period that had housing. More rezonings were approved, but 5 that included housing, and there was 408 housing units in those rezonings that were approved, not 150. So my apologies for that. And I'm happy to take any questions about the Housing Target Report, but Ms. Rowett is going to do the next part of the presentation. So we can do questions now or at the end.
Ms. Rowett, please. Councillor Manley.
Thank you. Yeah, I had some questions about the target. I'm just wondering, like, about the 1-bedroom and studio apartments. We're under on that count. Is there a market demand for studio and 1-bedroom apartments? Because if there was, I'm sure that developers would be doing that. But I'm just curious about, because we had discussions before about demand for more 3-bedroom and 2-bedroom units, that there seemed to be a lack of them in the city. And that seems to what developers are doing now. So I'm curious, first of all, where does the province get these target numbers, and is there market research behind it? And, you know, are the developers building for the market, or I would assume that they are. So I'm curious about that, those numbers, how we end up with them.
So it's a good question, and thank you for the question. Our housing, there is a methodology to the targets, and it's a similar methodology to our housing needs report. So you'll see in the housing needs report similar ratios as far as for the bedroom. And I think that 1-bedroom units just are more affordable. But I think you're right that the development community, in my experience, the development community, the market is for a 2-bedroom. So even if it's, you know, a couple or an individual, they may want a bedroom and an office, and there is, the market there is for a 2-bedroom. But, you know, 1-bedrooms just are more affordable. So there are, you know, through the zoning bylaw, we can get into the business of dictating the number of bedrooms in a larger housing development. So that's something we can consider as we do the new zoning bylaw, if that's, yeah, that would be a question for that project.
Yeah, I'm just curious about the research that's gone into it and what the need is based on the market. And so then the below market housing, we're far behind on that, but that's dependent on the province or the federal government stepping up to pay for that, correct?
Correct.
And if we don't meet our targets, is there some accountability that the city is held to for not meeting these targets, or is this we've been given targets, but what is the process around not meeting the targets?
Yeah, so there are other municipalities that have housing target orders and have recently had, and I have to think of, the province will send, if a municipality isn't meeting their targets, they'll send a staff person, they have a term for it, it's not coming to me right now, to work with the staff in our planning and building department to see if there's things we could be doing differently.
Okay.
So we're very happy to meet the hard target this year.
I'm curious about the converse then, like what do we do in terms of holding the province accountable for, and the federal government accountable for the targets for non-market housing, because there is a definite need in our community. And so I was actually disappointed to see that we hit 0 this year, so. Yeah. Is there any accountability? Okay, thank you. Hearing none.
Councillor Gesselbrock, Councillor Thorpe, Councillor Armstrong.
Thanks, Mayor. Through you, just on the non-market housing, I think Councillor Manley is very correct. I mean, it is provincial and federal dollars that are required to to build that housing. And this year it showed that we were at a deficit. And I was recently at a meeting with a bunch of other elected representatives across the province, and there's a lot of municipalities that are doing quite well, hitting, even though they have a housing order, they're hitting their market housing targets, but everybody is pretty much falling behind in the non-market housing. And you did show a slide there that said that there's 600 or something units that are like in process, but it's over a 7-year period. And if I'm not correct, when we look at our housing needs assessment, it's been multiple years, every time that I recall seeing the housing needs assessment report, that we are behind our non-market housing targets by a significant amount. Could you speak a little bit to that?
Sorry, what was the question?
Has it been, is this year not meeting the non-market housing target? Is it similar to preceding years, like the last 5, 6, 7 years, where we've been doing a housing needs report that we have not met the non-market housing targets?
Thank you. You're correct. Yes. And when we have done the housing needs report 2023 and 2024, it's true that the non-market housing or below market housing, both terms are used similarly, there is a shortage. There is a need for more. Absolutely, in the city of Nanaimo.
Yeah, and I just comment, I don't think Councillor Manley's remarks are far off the mark in terms of there's been a lot of pressure, I think, on local government to be accountable to meeting our market housing targets, and most cases we've been meeting in it, but the accountability the other way around for the non-market housing, which is showing that there's a big gap. That accountability is not there in the reverse direction, and I do think it is something to note and to look at how we can remedy that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Thorpe and Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, if I may, thank you to staff for this report. I find it quite interesting. Recognizing that housing construction, to my mind, is almost always market-driven. I struggle sometimes, most of the time, with being mandated by the province to certain possibly arbitrary targets, telling our community how much building we should be doing. So I'm hearing that we're meeting those targets in most areas, and that's good news. I'm pleased about that. Does that tell me that if council chose in future, we could be more selective in the type and number of projects that we approve?
Well, that's provocative.
It's my night.
Mr. Lindsay wants to jump in, and I don't know whether he thinks that's a rescue or
just maybe just slightly different perspective, Your Worship, from this side of the table. And I would think, I guess, first of all, I would say the vast majority of applications that come forward and get approved, we have in the housing report recognizes this, we have a considerable amount of land that's pre-zoned for development. So the vast majority of projects that come before us and ultimately get approved often do not come to council for rezoning. There's only a very small portion of applications that come to council. So whether or not council weighed this in future council decisions, I guess, is up to you, but I would suggest it would likely not have a significant impact on the number, and the number is probably more reflective of other factors like the market at the time and the economy and interest rates and commodity prices and all those other things. Yeah.
Thank you. And I don't mean to give the impression that I'm anti-development at all, but I'm just curious. If we're meeting these targets, it sort of takes the pressure off us a little bit if we want it to. Yes, Mr. Holm, if I may.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe I'll just add to Mr. Lindsay's comments too, that I think what's reflected too is that council's been very supportive of development generally, and despite some of the province uses the terms sort of proactive or progressive planning, which I think Nanaimo's been doing as part of the reasoning for some of the changes that they've made recently. I think Nanaimo's been very progressive and proactive in a lot of the planning work and the land use regulatory side, and I'm going to speak to some of that coming up in another item. But yeah, I think some of this reflects the history of a proactive city from a planning and regulatory perspective, and also a very supportive council and following up on, we have city plan, the OCP obviously sets direction for the community and for council in making decisions around land use, and we have Ms. Brinkman presented recently on some capacity that that we have in city plan policy-wise for additional units in the city, and we're actually very well set up to support from a planning perspective. The servicing perspective is another another side of it that we need to wrestle with, but we do have a lot of policy support and support politically for development, so that's appreciated and does help meet the community's needs. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Holman. If I may, Your Worship, one other quick question to staff, and that is, do we have any data or stats on vacancy rates? We know our population in this area is growing quickly. We're building all of these new units. I'm really curious to know how many are occupied and how many are vacant. Do we have any data on that?
Mr. Holm.
As far as the, pardon me, through your worship, so Ms. Brinkman spoke to the overall rental vacancy rate, but you're looking for units that are sitting vacant, not being used, that might be subject to the vacancy, speculation of vacancy tax of the province. I don't have that data. I'm not sure that we get a regular report on that data. Certainly something we can look into.
That's fine. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Armstrong.
I just wanted to say something to Councillor Manley, and then I have a question. In regards to the one bedrooms, I talked to lots of people that are out looking, whatever. They don't want one bedrooms because they actually are more expensive. You can rent a 2-bedroom for $2,000 versus renting a 1-bedroom for $1,500. So it's a big savings for them. So it's kind of interesting. And as to Councillor Thorpe, the new building that went up beside me over almost a year ago is still only at 40%, or no, 60% capacity. They're sitting vacant, and he's got like free months, all this kind of stuff. But I guess my concern comes around is the non-market. I've been doing a lot of research on it and following what's going on in Toronto and Vancouver. And poor Councillor Hemmons gets my emails like 2:30 in the morning. Check this one, check that one. And what they're saying, a lot of the developers, is they can't afford it, number one. The cost of infrastructure, like this one, they just pulled out of theirs because it was $60,000 just in DCCs to the community, and they said they can't afford that. Is that something that we're going to look at? And they're pushing the province to start changing the method on DCCs and start ponying up for the communities to help pay for infrastructure. Like I see Vancouver just got $250 million to help with infrastructure costs yet. The rest of us aren't getting that. So is that something we could look at, is like, how can we afford to keep building here? When you talk to a lot of developers in the big cities, they're not developing anymore. Condos are sitting vacant and empty, a lot of them between Vancouver and Toronto. Some of the big ones like when Rennie, the biggest rental company in Vancouver, lays off 30% of their staff, we got a problem. And that's only going to trickle down to us too. So what more can we do around that to ensure the buildings that we are getting do become occupied?
Mr. Holm.
Yeah, thank you, through your worship. Yeah, that's a really big question. Appreciate the question, Councillor Armstrong. It's a lot of challenge around that, and you're right. Some of the larger markets, obviously, Toronto and Vancouver being key examples recently, especially on the condo side. You're seeing slowdown on the condo side. As Ms. Brinkman presented, we saw a significant increase in occupancy on rental units. We didn't mention that there's funding programs. CMHC, for instance, has funding programs in place that support that some of the rental development that you see. As far as the infrastructure side, I think we're likely going to have to see the cost of infrastructure and funding that, and some of the challenges you've seen with developers funding the cost of infrastructure to support development. I mean, we have our development cost charges. We have the framework that the province has put in place to help us plan for and fund the infrastructure. You've seen in the case of Vancouver, as you mentioned, Councillor Armstrong, higher levels of government step in and provide some relief to increases in infrastructure fees that local governments have to pay to given the funding mechanisms that we have in place to fund that infrastructure. And I know obviously significant costs also relate to material and labor and as well, but infrastructure is a big piece of it. You've seen the province recently just announced that there some changes to development cost charges and the way they're collected, when they're collected. So now it's 25% at the time of building permit, well, starting January 1st, it'll be 25% at the time a building permit is issued. And then a developer will have up to 4 years to pay the remaining 75% or occupancy, whichever comes first. And they'll be able to secure those through a surety bond, which is insurance, rather than through a letter of credit, which is effectively tying up some of their equity. So there are some moves happening, but you're right, more work needed in that area. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Ruitt, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just on the theme of our construction activity, wanted to share the building permits issued in the last 10 years. So on screen it shows the trends and the average that we have seen of just over 1,000 residential units approved through building permits in the last, annually each year for the last 10 years. It would be obvious to see there's a decline both slightly in the number of applications. The residential building permits issued is the darker blue, and then the number of units per permit. So, of course, not surprising being down in 2024 as well as in 2023, given a number of economic factors going on. And we've talked a lot about that already, with financing challenges being a key factor, both for home ownership, but as well as financing larger projects. And then just in terms of
Councillor Perino has a question.
I apologize just to interrupt you. Thank you, Your Worship. I can't let this one go without asking the question about, you know, we are having residential units permitted, but our building permits issued is down. Is that because of, I mean, to me, the two do not necessarily suggest economic problems. What it looks like to me, given that we're going down, is that we're having more problems getting our permits issued. And I'm wondering if that's because we've had a struggle getting planning staff. I'm not even sure if we're up to full complement already. And if that's a problem, because I certainly hear from the development community that we are not getting our permits done in a timely fashion. I just wondered if you could respond to that.
I can, I'll speak to that, thank you.
Sure,
And then
thank you.
Mr. Holm would like to add. Certainly each year, building permits issuance fluctuates, and there's a number of reasons for that. Building permits in many cases may be issued and not necessarily even picked up. So again, if financing is not in place, or perhaps close to the end of a building permit review, if the information hasn't been submitted, there isn't that completion to be able to issue the permit, and again, financing not being in place, that's something we've seen. I think there have been several applications that have been in that category in the last year.
Okay.
Other than that, I'm just thinking maybe we got it better for Mr. Holm to speak to that.
Yeah, thank you, and through your worship to Councillor Perino too. I'll maybe add to that, and you can see in the graph
the next one.
Yeah, and even the one on the screen now, you can see the there are cycles, and you can see where these are permits issued, and if we track this against occupancy as well, you know, there is only so much capacity in industry. You mentioned there are challenges obviously with staff capacity and ability as well, but to process the permits in a timely manner, but that does rely on industry, both the professionals involved and then the financiers and that moving ahead with projects. You know, obviously they're going to watch the market closely. You can see cycles where we had, you know, 2019 we had a significant spike in permits issued.
Yes.
Some of those major projects that were issued in 2019, they've only just come up on occupancy, or there's quite a lag, and I meant to touch on that earlier, is where the province in the housing targets, so our first year of housing targets, those permits would have been in the, or those projects would have been in the design planning with the developer, and then the approval stage, and then the construction phase. For major projects, it's 5 years is not unusual if you look at a TELUS or Campbell Street style project. So there are definitely fluctuations, and then and market absorption, and you know, that you'll see some developers, obviously they don't want to get stuck holding units and they have that sort of lead time from design to occupancy. So there are fluctuations that occur naturally too in the system.
Okay, thank you. It's always my number one concern that permits are not getting done in a fast enough manner. Thank you.
Ms. Rowett, please.
Thank you. So I think Mr. Holm did speak to the slide as well, so I might just move forward. But ultimately here we are seeing the single-family suites have not significantly changed as much as the larger scale complex projects. So in terms of the low-density single-family homes, generally, though, there is a downward trend. We do see that in recent years, of course, with the provincial mandates, more interest in the small-scale multi-unit infill. I think we received about approximately 26 applications of the 3-4 unit projects in Nanaimo last year. So there is a continued trend of the typical single-family home on a fee simple lot. And I'll have a slide later that shows the subdivision statistics, but generally speaking, the trend of fee simple single-family homes on fee simple lots is generally down, and that's reflected here. And
Councillor Gesselbrock has a question.
Thanks. Just following up on what Councillor Polino was saying just about the decrease in permits. I think partly too, like, because of the trend of less single-family dwelling units permitted, the number of total units is actually is high. It's because we're permitting a lot more multifamily units with a lot of units, multifamily developments, and just less single-family homes. So, you got 20 permits out if you do 20 single-family homes, but it's just one permit for like a 20-unit building, and I think that's what shows up in that graph. If I'm not mistaken, if that's what that's showing.
Certainly that is, and there is some decline, but absolutely there are more complex permits being issued, and so there's generally fewer permits with more units in them.
And is there less single-family homes being permitted each year? Like there's a general decline just because we're building less of them?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Certainly what the graph would indicate.
And in terms of new construction throughout the city, this is just to give a visual representation of the distribution, again, of the single-family homes as well as the multifamily. So the single-family being the red dots and the multifamily being in blue. And just to show that Nanaimo continues to see many larger complex developments, the multifamily or mixed-use developments throughout the city near our urban centers and along key corridors. For example, we saw some developments along Metro Drive or Labio area. And of course, this evening we heard one from Uplands Drive. And this trend really does continue to support the city plan vision for seeing people being able to live and in closer proximity to employment centers and services, as well as transit and recreational amenities. In terms of construction value by permit type, this graph just shows last year, over the last 10 years again, what the trends have been in relation to the 10-year average, which I think is sitting approximately around 265 million, somewhere in there. So of course, last year being at approximately $203 million in construction value overall. And again, being able to see the distribution there. I think again, the trends that we've been speaking to already with the economic factors impacting some of the larger developments, which typically are the ones that can be the driving factor of generating construction value. With a bit of a decline, we're going to see that naturally in the value by permit type. But just to highlight some of the top projects, again, by value of building permit. So 4775 Uplands, this is towards the north end, and it's right next to the Origin Seniors multifamily development, and very close to our North Nanaimo Town Center. That's a $15 million project for a 48-unit apartment building. And then more closer to downtown, but somewhat central at 529 Terminal Avenue North. This is a 69-unit multifamily development, valued at $13.5 million. And at 5th Street, this would be the VIU student housing development. This is a provincially funded project, and what you're seeing here is actually the value of the foundation permit, which was issued in 2024, $13 million. The building permit is actually $55 million for that they did a phased permitting process there, and so that will be in our 2025 stats. And then again, just highlighting a industrial project on East Wellington Road at 1861 for a warehouse and office building at $10 million. In terms of our development approval stats, as we've said already, it fluctuates from year to year and where we're at in the year, but just to show over the last 5 years, rezoning applications that have been approved is up from we are close to the average of 13. So 13 rezoning applications approved is our 5-year average, slightly down, but keeping in mind that there were some significant projects in there, including the Sandstone rezoning application, which was approved in 2024, and that sets the stage for a number of other approvals to proceed, including many subdivisions, development permits that will come out of that. Development permits definitely seem to be on the rise, and this is exciting for us. We're seeing a number of applications approved both last year and in stream already this year. And through that, through development permits, which are pretty much the precursor to a building permit, we have seen last year just over 1,000 units approved through DPs. And also in terms of ones that are still in stream, not necessarily approved, but another just over 300 there. On the subdivision side, again, as mentioned earlier, seeing fewer fee simple subdivisions and the creation of fewer lots. However, there are a number of applications that are in stream currently, and including, as I mentioned, Sandstone. So there are some subdivision applications that don't necessarily create a number of lots right up front, but they are setting the stage for future development to occur in a community. And because we are dealing in many cases with infill subdivisions that are not necessarily creating 3 or more new lots, we do see less parkland dedication through that process as well. So that's why we're seeing less in 2024. And I'm happy to take any questions or
Thank you very much. Any questions? Haven't already been asked. I'm just curious, the student building at VIU is only a $13 million project? That's the foundation.
That's the foundation only, yes. And then the building for the rest of the project would be approximately $55 million, I understand.
Thank you. Otherwise, I was going to ask if I could find the name of the contractor.
Yeah.
All right. Motion to receive the target progress report. Moved Councillor Thorpe, seconded Councillor Armstrong. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Appreciate the presentation. The next is the Delegation of Authority bylaw update and consideration of variances policy. Mr. Holm, again, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is a big project, but I'll try and be really brief and just leave it to Council to ask questions if they have any of this. This is ongoing efforts towards development approvals, process improvements. This was highlighted as an opportunity through our the city's 2024 development approval process review. It's a part of our, it's identified in the integrated action plan and aligns with provincial small-scale multi-unit housing site standards recommendations as well. So what's proposed here is an expansion to the authority for delegated variances, delegated development permits with variance. And I can touch on some of the details there, as well as the addition of delegated authority for some minor variances through development variance permit. So development permit applications are guided by the city's set of guidelines, largely for form and character. Development permit area is established through city plan, which council's familiar with, obviously. And then guidelines are included in the zoning bylaw, and as council adopted at its last meeting, form and character development permit area guidelines recently updated and consolidated. In all, what's being requested, is an expansion of authority for development permit with variance delegation, as well as some larger development permit approvals related to housing. So moving the delegated authority, for instance, for housing from 100 units to 150 units, as well as allowing for a renewal of council-approved development permits to be delegated to staff. So these are administrative efficiency measures to take some of the more routine development approval projects off of council's plate and with appropriate guidance adopted by council and criteria to delegate those to staff. Development permits or development variance permits, delegation of those. It's new to the city of Nanaimo. There was a scan of municipalities around the province that are currently doing that. 28 municipalities were scanned, reviewed. 21 included delegated development variance permits. It's a relatively new authority granted by the province in 2021. What's suggested here is relatively minor variances. We actually have to establish what are minor variances to be included in the delegated development variance permit option. So those would be building setbacks not exceeding 25%, fence height not exceeding 50%, parking variances not greater than 2 spaces, and sign bylaw variances of up to 50%. So keeping those relatively minor, so height variance through a development variance permit would still come to council, or any of the anything exceeding what I just outlined. So included in this package is criteria that outlines what a minor variance is. That's a requirement to outline what a minor variance is, as well as another tool to help with the process and help guide applicants through the process and staff in reviewing and understanding expectations is a draft consideration of variance policy. So again, a big package, all part of delegated approvals and process improvements. I'm happy to take questions, but I'll turn it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Kesselbrock.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. Appreciate the report and a lot of the changes. I just had one question. I wasn't clear if that, what it was asking for or not, but it says for DPA 1, which I think is the environmentally sensitive areas, allowing delegated authority for variances that are under 20% infringement into the leaf strip. And is that correct? Would that be a change that we'd be requesting with this set of changes?
Through your worship to Councillor Gesselbrecht, so that actually is not a change. That's what the current, I didn't go through the list of what we're not changing, but that was one that we specifically elected not to change or suggest not to change.
So it's not being changed?
That's the current bylaw allows for 20%, the delegation of authority bylaw, and what's proposed is to maintain that at 20%.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Councillor Armstrong, care to make the recommended motions?
Motion that the officer designation and delegation of authority amendment bylaw 2025 number 7353.04, a bylaw to update delegated approval authority for development permits and to add delegated approval authority for development variance permits, pass first reading.
Seconded, Councillor Eastmere. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
Motion that officer designation and delegation of authority amendment bylaw 2025 number 7353.04 pass second reading.
Seconded, Councillor Eastmere. Any discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
Motion that officer designation and delegation of authority amendment bylaw 2025 number 7353.04 pass third reading.
Seconded, Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
That council directs staff to bring forward draft council policy COU 246, consideration of variance policy for consideration of endorsement concurrent with adoption of officer designation and delegation of authority amendment bylaw 2025 number 7353.04.
Seconded, Councillor Hemmens. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. We are now on to a number of bylaws, and I'm not giving up the chair, Councillor Armstrong, but I am turning over to you several pages, and I wish you well. Do you want a glass of water to start?
Motion that Parks Dedication Amendment Bylaw 2025 number 225.01 be adopted.
Seconded, Councillor Eastmere. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
Motion that Zoning Amendment Bylaw 2014.
Sorry, Councillor Brown. He's a no.
Oh.
Passes, Councillor Brown.
Motion that Zoning Amendment Bylaw 2014 number 4500.055 be adopted.
Seconded, Councillor Hemmens. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
Motion that Zoning Amendment Bylaw 2025 number 4500.241 be adopted.
Seconded, Councillor Hemmens. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
Motion that Traffic and Highways Regulation Amendment Bylaw 2025, number 5000.049 be adopted.
Seconded Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
Motion that Home Energy Retrofit Financing 1510 Cranberry Avenue, Local Area Service Establishment Bylaw 2025, number 7399 be adopted.
Seconded Councillor Perino. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
Motion that Home Energy Retrofit Financing 123 Camp Place, Local Area Service Establishment Bylaw 2025, number 7400 be adopted.
Seconded Councillor Eastmere. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
Motion that Home Energy Retrofit Financing 2896 105 Street, Local Area Service Establishment Bylaw 2025, number 7401 be adopted.
Seconded Councillor Eastmere. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
Motion that Home Energy Retrofit Financing 688 Nickel Street, Local Area Service Establishment Bylaw 2025, number 7402 be adopted.
Seconded Councillor Hemmons. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
Motion that Home Energy Retrofit Financing 101 5918 Caden Place, Local Area Service Establishment Bylaw 2025, number 7403 be adopted.
Seconded Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
Motion that Home Energy Retrofit Financing 5384 Catalina Drive, Local Area Service Establishment Bylaw 2025, number 7404 be adopted.
Seconded Councillor Perino. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
Motion that Home Energy Retrofit Financing 190 Heritage Drive, Local Area Service Establishment Bylaw 2025, number 7405 be adopted.
Seconded Councillor Perino. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
Motion that Home Energy Retrofit Financing 4542 Woodwinds Drive, Local Area Service Establishment Bylaw 2025, number 7407 be adopted.
Seconded Councillor Hemmons. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
Motion that Home Energy Retrofit Financing 32 Solaire Drive, Local Area Service Establishment Bylaw 2025, number 7408 be adopted.
Seconded Councillor Perino. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
Motion that Home Energy Retrofit Financing 4015 Uplands Drive, Local Area Service Establishment Bylaw 2025, number 7409 be adopted.
Seconded Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
Motion that Home Energy Retrofit Financing 1613 Blackstone Place, Local Area Service Establishment Bylaw 2025, number 7410 be adopted.
Seconded Councillor Hemmons. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
Motion that Home Energy Retrofit Financing 146 Emery Way, Local Area Service Establishment Bylaw 2025, number 7411 be adopted.
Seconded Councillor Perino. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
Motion that Home Energy Retrofit Financing 621 Victoria Road, Local Area Service Establishment Bylaw 2025, number 7412 be adopted.
Seconded Councillor Hemmons. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
Motion that Home Energy Retrofit Financing 57 Cutlass Lookout, Local Area Service Establishment Bylaw 2025, number 7413 be adopted.
Seconded Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
Motion that Home Energy Retrofit Financing 448 7th Street, Local Area Service Establishment Bylaw 2025, number 7414 be adopted.
Seconded Councillor Eastmere. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
Motion that Home Energy Retrofit Financing 645 Halliburton Street, Local Area Service Establishment Bylaw 2025, number 7415 be adopted.
Seconded Councillor Hemmons. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
Motion that Home Energy Retrofit Financing 5309 Williamson Road, Local Area Service Establishment Bylaw 2025, number 7417 be adopted.
Seconded Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
Motion that Home Energy Retrofit Financing 437 Kennedy Street, Local Area Service Establishment Bylaw 2025, number 7418 be adopted.
Seconded Councillor Perino. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
Motion that Home Energy Retrofit Financing 2465 Oriole Drive, Local Area Service Establishment Bylaw 2025, number 7419 be adopted.
Seconded Councillor Thorpe. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
Motion that Home Energy Retrofit Financing 6217 Icarus Drive, Local Area Service Establishment Bylaw 2025, number 7421 be adopted.
Seconded Councillor Eastmere. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
Motion that Home Energy Retrofit Financing 1674 White Blossom Way, Local Area Service Establishment Bylaw 2025, number 7422 be adopted.
Seconded Councillor Hemmens. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
Motion that home energy retrofit financing 3200 Greystone Place, local area service establishment bylaw 2025, number 7423 be adopted.
Seconded Councillor Perino. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries.
Home energy retrofit, motion that home energy retrofit financing 2554 Cosgrove Crescent, local area service establishment bylaw 2025, number 7424 be adopted.
Seconded Councillor Hemmens. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you very much, Councillor Armstrong. And for the benefit of those watching, it's a rule that we have to follow. It's one we can't change or fix, but occasionally it does happen under that program. Sorry to bore a lot of you. The next item is correspondence. It's an agenda item, Pacifica Housing Advisory Association request for a letter of support with proposal of BC Housing Community Housing Fund. Councillor Eastermere makes the recommended motion. Councillor Armstrong seconds. Any need for discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. We have no notices of motion. We're on to other business, and the first one is Councillor Hemmens' motion re-cleaning services for the South End. Councillor Hemmens.
Thank you, Your Worship. I will move that Council direct staff to investigate and report to Council on the viability of establishing additional cleaning services for the south end of Nanaimo, covering all sidewalks and boulevards on both sides of the street and the areas adjacent to all current and future social service buildings, specifically but not limited to 702 Nickel, 355 Nickel, Esplanade by the Salvation Army, 100 block of Halliburton, Victoria Road north of Selby, the 100 block of Finlayson Street, as well as Nob Hill Park, Deverell Square Park, and Knowles Park, until March 31st, 2026, effective immediately.
Seconded Councillor Eastmere. Discussion on this,
If I may, Your Worship.
please.
Briefly, I'll just say, I think we're all familiar, this is in follow-up to our last council meeting, and it's an attempt to respond to the immediate challenges in the neighborhood surrounding the hub as the service either winds down or prepares for a transition or relocation. I do want to flag that this the wording of this was actually pulled from the neighborhood priorities, which I thought was a really interesting tie-in. So that happened late spring, where city asked neighborhood associations, what are your top 3 priorities? This was number 3 for the South End. So I'm just making that nice link that this is exactly what they've asked for. This is in response to something happening in their neighborhood. I feel like this is a nice, easy win. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Perino, then Councillor Eastmere.
Thank you, Your Worship, and a question through you. I certainly agree with this. We'll be voting in favor. My concerns are, of course, the cost, and if this takes away from the cleaning services that we already have in other areas. Does it take it away, or are we going to add on people? And so, of course, it's the financial burden that's what I'd be interested in seeing. Thank you.
That's what the report's going to tell us. And I suspect it will be more.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Not seeing any further speakers. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. The next is 13B, Councillor Hemmens, motion re-sober housing model. Councillor Hemmens, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to move that the Mayor write a letter to the new Minister of Housing and Municipal Affairs to reiterate Council's strong desire to see BC Housing contemplate sober housing for those who qualify for supportive housing and who are in recovery, and that BC Housing consider the sober housing model for the upcoming project at 250 Terminal.
Seconded, Councillor Perino. I think you beat Councillor Armstrong to this motion, Councillor Hemmens. This one has some enthusiastic support.
Thank you. I will note, Councillor Armstrong and I have been on this for years, and BC Housing will not be news to them that we're asking for this, and I did, again, I'm being driven by the voices of the neighborhood. Newcastle specifically asked for this, so I think we can meet them there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Armstrong, did you say something?
Support for the simple fact that in my job with my board position on the Alano Club, we hear from many, many people in recovery that have no place to live, and that they'd like to stay sober and clean, but sometimes they can't because they get put in situations where they're not given that opportunity. And I also think it would be cheaper in the long run, so you can move people that don't need 24/7 supports into there and then free up the beds for those that do. I think it needs to be a progressive. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Manley, please.
Thank you. Yeah, I would say I'm strongly in support of this as well, having run a shelter and seeing people coming out of recovery and treatment and going back into the shelter and you know, being exposed to substance abuse around them, and I think that the people that are seeking a clean and sober lifestyle should be provided with supportive housing to do that. And I also think that the Newcastle neighborhood has done their turn in this community. They've dealt with a lot over the last almost decade now, and so I'm very supportive of seeing this particular project be a sober housing project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm not going to gild the lily. I'll just simply say I agree with everything that's been said. All those in favor and any opposed? None. Motion carries. The next is Councillor Thorpe. Motion request that Island Health close the supervised consumption site at 250 Albert Street. Councillor Thorpe.
Your Worship, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but just before Councillor Thorpe gets started, there was a request via email from a Beverly Plains to be a late delegation to this item. She's not able to attend in person tonight, but just want to note that she has made a submission via your email for your consideration regarding this motion. So sorry to interrupt,
I
Councillor
think
Thorpe.
everybody had a chance to read that submission, and I must say candidly, I'm not anxious to support in future the suggestion that we're going to change the practice of this council and allow last-minute delegations on issues. That's why we have a policy that we do. It prevents the kind of what I will call discretionary decision-making that is best not used. Councillor Armstrong.
He got
Yes,
interrupted.
I was going to say Councillor Armstrong. We'll let Councillor Thorpe finish. Sorry.
I would like to put forward this motion, and I think to some extent it relates to Councillor Hemmons' previous motion, but my motion reads that Council formally request Island Health to close the supervised drug consumption site at 250 Albert Street and put future efforts toward drug-free treatment facilities.
Is the seconder Councillor Crino? Councillor Thorpe?
Thank you, Your Worship. I would like to speak to this, and I want Council and viewers to know that I recognize this is a subject which people hold strong opinions on and different opinions on, and I don't make this motion lightly. But I honestly think that it is time for our council to discuss this, to take a stand, and to make a statement regarding the harm that is being done currently to our community. And I want to acknowledge right away that a similar motion has already been made regarding a Victoria consumption site by Victoria City Councillor Marg Gardner, and I share her views, which she has expressed, and that is that the disorder on our streets is the result of failure to come to grips with drug use. The government experiment of decriminalization and normalization of open drug use and addiction on our streets, quite frankly, in my opinion, has been an abject failure. So for several years now, I have been saying that we do not really have a homelessness crisis. What we have is a drug addiction crisis. The vast majority of people that we see and talk about as homeless on our streets are those with severe mental health issues, those that are incapable of looking after themselves due mainly to drugs. They are the ones who are the source of the social disorder on our streets. Last week, we again heard from neighborhoods which have been devastated by violent and unpredictable addicts. We heard of city staff requesting a fence around our building next to the Albert Street consumption site due to fears caused by drug trafficking, open substance abuse, vandalism, intimidation, fires, etc. And we as a city, what can we do? Well, all we can do is spend taxpayers' money to put Band-Aids on the situation, to move the drop-in hub to another neighborhood, or to build higher fences, or to hire more community safety officers, or to increase our cleanup crews. We don't have the money, the resources, or in fact the mandate to treat the root of this problem, which is substance abuse and drug addiction causing mental illness. So instead of spending time and money on Band-Aids, let's deal with the source of the problem. The people suffering from substance abuse need help. They need treatment, and I have great compassion for them. What I don't think they need is more free drugs. And the consumption site, to me, is simply a symbol of failed government policy of decriminalization, of treating drug addiction by providing more drugs, of enabling drug use and the resulting social disorder. So my motion asks the government to change direction, to stop enabling drug usage. Instead, put the money and the effort into drug-free treatment facilities. Consider involuntary compassionate care for those that can't look after themselves. We need to do something differently to address the misery of those living in addiction on our streets and to give relief to the tax-paying citizens being negatively affected. So I ask Council to consider this motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Armstrong?
Thank you. I would like to make a motion to defer this, and if I get seconded, then I'll speak to it.
Seconded, Councillor Eastmere.
I don't agree with shutting this down willy-nilly like this. I think that we need to hear from Island Health. I think we need to hear from the operators. And just to correct something you said, drugs aren't free at the consumption site. They're tested to make sure that they're safe. So they're not getting free drugs there. I do agree that there's issues with the safe consumption site the way it is. I would like to see Island Health also look at the possibility of mobile overdose prevention sites. I've done some research on those. We've heard that a lot of the people that are dying from illicit drugs are dying in their homes. So perhaps if there was a mobile site, we might be able to help solve that crisis as well. So I would like to defer this to a further meeting, or at a meeting, and I would like to invite Island Health, members of the community that are interested in being here, CMHA, and whatever, maybe medical professionals, because I'm not prepared to shut down something that we do know. It does save lives, there's absolutely no doubt, but I do agree that the chaos around it can be very problematic, but I would like to have Island Health and CMHA look at different options to maybe address that, because I just can't in good faith shut something down without hearing from the operators, hearing from Island Health, and knowing what other options are there. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Eastmere, then Councillor Manley.
Thank you. I'm grateful for the deferral option put on the floor by Councillor Armstrong, because I think it's embarrassing that we're debating this at this point. It feels like we're jumping way ahead when we haven't even had recent discussions with Island Health about the degree of our concerns, and jumping right to the idea of closing the OPS is almost like we're doing our own referendum on the importance of harm reduction. And at the end of the day, this is ensuring that less harm is being done. They're doing this work to ensure that less people are being killed by the toxic drugs, because we still don't have accessible access to safe supply or to treatment, timely treatment, or mental health or medical health supports. And we need to be putting the pressure on Island Health and the province to come through with those things before we jump right to let's close the OPS. At the very least, we should be saying let's open more OPSs. And this will really just put more pressure on police and ambulance for call-outs to people overdosing, and we've seen the medical aid calls there through the roof. And I'm glad for Councillor Armstrong correcting the narrative about people getting free drugs at the OPS. That's absolutely not what it is there to do. So, yeah, given this, fundamental misunderstanding of what the OPS actually does, I think it's really important that we have a more in-depth discussion and bring the partners to the table so that we can get to the root of some of the issues, which is the fact that we don't have enough supports at that particular site, and we need to have that conversation first before we jump into this. So I'm very much in favor of deferral. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we get to what I expect will be a full council roster, I'd appreciate it tonight if we would all speak once. This is a motion to defer, and we not have some back and forth debate all night. The motion is just for deferral only. Councillor Manley, please.
Thank you. Yeah, I support deferral as well. I think that we need to have an informed discussion around this issue. I think Councillor Armstrong is right that the people who are dying from the drug overdose are people who are using alone in their homes, and there should be drug testing at pharmacies across the community so that people can go in and discreetly have drugs tested before they use them. And they should have the ability to have supervised consumption for those that are addicted to opioids. It's a very, very powerful addiction. It's very hard to get off of opioid addiction. And I've seen at the shelter we had public health nurses come through and provide fentanyl patches to people who wanted to stabilize their lives. And there are many avenues to correcting this problem. What we have, though, is a failure of policy. The drug decriminalization policy was very poorly thought out. I mean, you just need to look at the idea, 2.5 grams of cocaine, that's a Wall Street stockbroker and a escort out for an evening. 2.5 grams of fentanyl is enough to kill everybody in this room. So, you know, the idea that 2.5 grams of this and that are equal, they are not. When prohibition was lifted on alcohol, they did not allow people to continue to create alcohol in their bathtubs with antifreeze, with rubbing alcohol, with whatever else that they could dump in there to get people buzzed on. And so what we have now is a free-for-all for organized crime who blend up things in a coffee grinder and pack it up for people to smoke. And it's full of all kinds of toxins and you know, things that will kill people. And it's not safe. It's extremely dangerous. If we had our you know, the head of bylaw here, I would be asking him, what would, you know, where would these people go? And I suspect that the answer would be they'd be sitting at the Italian fountain using, they'd be sitting in front of businesses using, they would be in other locations. Because it's not the OPS itself, it is the policy of drug decriminalization that did not come along with addiction services, treatment facilities, housing for people who are addicted. So, you know, this problem is much bigger than just this OPS. And I am extremely upset that our staff have to deal with what goes on at City Hall. So I do want to see some changes, and I think we need to send some strong messages to the province, and we can do that in an informed way.
Thank you, Councillor Manley. I want to remind everybody, maybe I wasn't clear, we're speaking to a deferral motion. We're not arguing the motion. The next is Councillor Perino, then Councillor Hemmens, then Councillor Brown, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I want to start by saying that I really sincerely thank Councillor Thorpe for bringing this to the table. This is his third term. He's watched a lot of this over the years. We have spent millions of dollars to try and tackle this problem with so little response that's positive. And so I get where Councillor Thorpe is coming from, and to be honest with you, I've thought the same myself, and I agree. However, we all know that drug abuse is in fact a disease. Drug addicts desperately need help. I am going to go ahead and vote in favor of deferral because an OPS like what we have right beside City Hall and right in a community where there's businesses and people living, this needs to be near a hospital. We need to be able to have a place where drugs are provided that are safe for the addicts to take, and we need wraparound services for 24 hours a day. When I see people standing outside just waiting to be able to use a washroom, I'm appalled that we put people with such a severe disease in this position. The only reason I will vote for deferral is because I want to see Island Health here, and I want to ask them, why do you not do this beside a hospital where people can get the care and attention that they need and deserve, and take it out of our business community and away from our neighborhoods, and let's get these people the help that they deserve. And let me tell you, almost many of us have had family members that we've lost due to this disease. I thank you, Councillor Thorpe, for bringing this forward.
Thank you. Councillor Hemmens.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll be brief. I support deferral simply because I think the community expects us to have this conversation in public, and we should be having this conversation with that authority. Thank you.
Absolutely. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Your Worship. And, you know, I do think this is a very big conversation, and I'll keep my comments to the deferral. But, you know, I think it is such a big conversation and such a societal one that, you know, I remember Mr. Harding telling me once that years ago, decades ago, public recreation programs were, you know, an effort to provide youth an outlet and give people things to do, and tied to complete holistic well-being. With that said, I don't think that's the intent of this motion. I do think this is I don't doubt it's a well-intended motion, and coming from a place of wanting to see the overdose crisis, the severe homelessness crisis, the toxic drug crisis off our streets. I undoubtedly think that is the intention. However, I do think it's very misguided, and first of all, I'm not sure what we're deferring to. I think more appropriately, this should be a topic for the GPC, and I think it should have some thought and discussion at the GPC in the agenda setting, so that we're not just sending a deferral letter because we didn't fully want to debate it tonight, that goes to Island Health that says we've got this motion potentially on the floor about closing down the OPS in our request. So yeah, I think misguided. I think there was a lot of things in the opening statement that would benefit from some informed, open drug use versus OPS use, the impact on the streets, difference between supervised consumption and decriminalization. I think understanding these factors are important, but I don't think this motion and a deferral to wherever it's supposed to go gets us there. And I would implore council to reject the deferral and bring this topic up at the GPC, and the appropriate place would be agenda setting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Gesselbrock was next. Councillor Armstrong.
I just wanted to reply to that because that was staff's recommendation to a future meeting.
Perhaps we can let Councillor Gesselbrock speak, and then we'll hear from Councillor Armstrong.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm torn whether to support the deferral to wherever it's going to be deferred to, or just simply vote this motion down. I think that this particular motion is targeting a service that really is the last resort Band-Aid for a really bad set of situation that we're in. And I can understand that there's a lot of frustration in the community around the social disorder that we're experiencing, and the lack of progress that we've made over the many years that the toxic drug crisis has been on, along with the housing crisis. And I think the degree of investment that we put into detox, treatment, housing is a fraction of what is actually warranted, and we're not taking the seriousness of addiction and homelessness as serious in terms of what we're putting our pocketbooks towards. So part of me feels that this motion is a distraction from the real issue, and I'd like to vote it down. The one benefit is that there is a lot of frustration with the lack of progress, and a deferral allows to keep this topic alive for more discussion and awareness and identification of what we actually should be prioritizing in terms of this council's advocacy to where we need to be pushing the province and to where we need to see action. And so I'm torn on what I'm going to support, but I'm leaning towards just not supporting the deferral and voting down the motion and asking for something more substantial and well-rounded discussion on the problems that we're facing. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Armstrong, briefly, please.
I just wanted to say that I was just asked to refer it to a meeting, and then staff would talk to the various people that we would like to speak to see which works better for them, a daytime meeting or an evening meeting. That was the reason for not specifying a GPC versus meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. After I've spoken, I'm going to give the last word to Councillor Thorpe. And I want to bring us back to the substance of this motion. It is not and will not be our decision whether the OPS site remains open or closes or continues or disappears or gets improved or better funded. The motion is asking Island Health to close down the supervised consumption site. I see this, in my view, as a cry on behalf of the citizens of this community, many of whom have appeared before us numerous times about the whole issue of street disorder, as I have referred to it, a mental health, addictions, trauma, and brain injury crisis that has impacted the citizens of this community for a very long time. Whether we pass the motion in its form, if assuming it is deferred, or at some future date, it will not affect whether Island Health decides to keep it open or the provincial government, whatever their policy is. But it is an opportunity for Island Health to come forward, and others who are proponents of an overdose prevention site and those who are opposed to it, to state their views and let us have this public discussion. It is the crisis of our times. It is absorbing an incredible amount of resources with, and I think that's one thing all of council can agree upon, no significant obvious improvement. Mercifully, we have the potential of the sites at 1300 Island Highway and 1030 Victoria Road opening up, and Travelers Lodge, hopefully. Maybe we'll see a change there. But in the meantime, this is not the kind of topic generally I think that is suitable for a GPC, in the sense that we don't deliver the services, we don't provide the services, we don't have the legal jurisdiction or the responsibility. But in terms of an opportunity for people to come forward and defend the OPS, which is what Councillor Thorpe is asking for, I think is a good thing. But I think that everyone who needs to be heard or should be heard should have that opportunity. I've seen folks here tonight who I know are strong proponents and some who I suspect are opposed. So let us have that opportunity, but referring it to a GPC when we don't have control over this, I think would be, frankly, a waste of council's time. Councillor Thorpe, last word to you as the mover.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I appreciate that, and I appreciate the comments of council, and I understand your thoughts, I think, most of them. So, Councillor Armstrong, I do understand the intent of deferring. I'm not going to support it. I heard Councillor Manley reference a failure of government policy and the need to send a strong message to the province. Well, that is the intent of this motion, because as I referenced in my earlier comments, I see the consumption site as a symbol of that failed government policy. So I'm not supporting deferral. Information from Island Health might be interesting, but it's not going to address my intent. And I'm not attacking Island Health. I'm not attacking the consumption site per se. I'm certainly not attacking the operators. They just take direction from the province. What I'm attacking is the philosophy of our provincial government, and I'm being very blunt about that. We as a local government cannot solve the drug problem and the social disorder that it's causing, but we can stand up and urge the provincial government to have a second look at what it's doing, to consider changing course, to put money into treatment and rehabilitation, not in enabling drug use. We need supports that lead to rehabilitation, drug-free transitional housing and treatment centers. We need to argue for involuntary treatment and compassionate care for those that are a danger to themselves and to others. We need a change in philosophy, and this motion just takes a first step in getting the attention of the provincial government to consider that. If we do nothing, the situation will just continue to get worse for the homeless people on the street and for the taxpayers in our neighborhoods. And the sooner we get this message to the provincial government, the better. So I won't support the deferral. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The motion is for deferral. All those in favor, Councillors Armstrong, Eastmere, Hemmens, Mayor Krogh, Councillor Brino, Councillor Manley. Those opposed to deferral, Councillors Gesselbrock, Thorpe, and Brown. The motion carries. Ms. Gurry, question period. Any items? Bruni Highway and Traffic Bylaw. Which item is that one again?
Yeah, so Your Worship, that is under bylaws, which isn't one of the items that is available for question period.
Right, I'm just, yes, D. Good evening, your question, please.
Bruni, Stewart Avenue, Honorable Mayor and Councillors. Concerning traffic on highways regulation, my question to you is, do you think the lighted pedestrian crossway in downtown Nanaimo is safe?
Sorry, the lighted...
A lighted pedestrian crosswalk in downtown busy Nanaimo is safe? Because in actual fact, it is not. Because cars can turn right, they can turn left, they're always in a hurry, they'll just sit right on in the middle of the road, and they don't even lift somebody. I mean, I've been nearly run down a number of times because they zip off to the side.
Sorry, can you just confirm which crosswalk exactly you're talking about, the location, the intersection, what streets?
So I'm asking if that regulation can be changed so that cars do not cross over a lighted pedestrian crosswalk, because it's very dangerous.
Councillor Armstrong, ex-police.
There's already laws in place for that.
Pardon?
There's already laws in place for that. It's just a matter of enforcing them.
Can it be enforced?
Well, if the police are available and there when they see it, but if they're not there and don't see it, it's pretty difficult.
Well, the car should not be able to go across, period.
Well, there's no way to stop them from doing that unless you put in blockades all the time, and we certainly don't have the
Well,
money
you
or
can
other
just, you can
resources.
just make it a law, because if.
It is a law.
It is a law.
It is
No,
a law.
but they can go, cars can go.
Yeah, but it's still a law. People do a lot of things that are laws that they break them daily, so, but it is a law, it just needs to be enforced.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the attendance. Appreciate the attendance of everyone tonight who sat through the council meeting. Moved Councillor Armstrong, seconded Councillor Prino. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you very much.